He didn't look up when she stepped closer. That was the first thing. He was sitting on the low bench by the greenhouse doors, half in shadow, the kind that came from thick ivy and late afternoon clouds. Her baby was in his arms like it belonged there. Not stiff, not awkward, like he'd done it before, like he didn't need permission. Her daughter's tiny hand was curled around his thumb. The bottle was angled perfectly, not rushed, not trembling. The baby's cheeks moved in slow, steady pulls. For a moment, she couldn't hear anything except the soft swallowing. And then her stomach turned, sharp and cold, because she realized something that made her throat tighten. The baby wasn't crying. The baby was calm. And this man, the stranger, was looking down at her child with the kind of attention people didn't fake. Like he was trying to remember her face. Like he already had. She didn't speak right away. Her hand was still wrapped around her phone. One tap and security would be there in under 30 seconds. That was the rule. The house was layered with rules. The man shifted slightly, adjusting the blanket under the baby's head. He didn't rush, didn't look startled. Just careful. Her heels clicked once on the stone. He glanced up then. Not guilty. Not bold either. Just aware. For a second, neither of them moved. The greenhouse smelled like wet soil and citrus leaves. The gardener had left the side door open again. She would deal with that later. Right now, all she could see was her daughter's eyelids fluttering, heavy with milk and sleep. "How did you get in here?" she asked. Her voice sounded steady. That surprised her. "The gate was open," he said. Simple. No excuse folded inside it. "That gate is never open." He gave a small nod like he accepted that she believed that. The baby made a soft sound, almost a sigh. He paused mid-sentence, eyes dropping back to her face, waiting until she settled before he finished adjusting the bottle. He knew to pause. Her thumb hovered over the screen. "You need to put her down," she said. He didn't argue. He didn't tighten his hold either. Slowly, carefully, he lowered the bottle and slid it out of the baby's mouth. She made a small protest. He lifted her just enough to rest her against his shoulder, patting once, twice. Gentle, spaced. Though, not guessing, knowing. The baby let out a tiny burp. Her chest tightened. She hadn't shown anyone that trick. Not even the nanny. The nanny was off today. Which meant, "Where is Lila?" she asked. "In the kitchen," he said. "She's on the phone. She didn't see me." Her jaw stiffened. He stood then, moving toward her slowly, like he understood that sudden motion would end this conversation. The baby stayed asleep against his shoulder. One hand supported her neck. The other steadied her back. He stopped 2 feet away. Up close, he didn't look like someone who wandered in the gated estates. His shirt was worn but clean. His hands were rough. There was a thin scar near his wrist. Not fresh. "Give her to me." He did. No hesitation. No lingering touch. He transferred the baby with careful precision, making sure her head didn't shift. When her weight settled into her mother's arms, the world snapped back into place, but not completely. The baby stirred, then relaxed again. She stepped back. "Stay there." He nodded. Silence pressed in. She looked at her daughter's face. The faint milk line at the corner of her mouth. The way her lashes cast small shadows against her cheeks. Then she looked at him again. "You have 10 seconds to explain," she said. He didn't rush his words. That unsettled her more than panic would have. "I wasn't going to hurt her." "That's not an explanation." "I know." He inhaled once, shallow. "I was looking for someone." She almost laughed. The sound died before it reached her throat. "This is private property." "I know that too." The baby shifted again. She adjusted her hold instinctively. The man's eyes followed the movement. Not possessive. Not desperate. Just attentive. "You need to leave," she said. He didn't move. "I will," he replied. "After you hear me." Her finger tightened on the phone. "You're in no position to negotiate." "I'm not negotiating." A beat passed. I just don't want you calling security before I finish." There it was, a flicker of something. Not fear. Not exactly. Something closer to urgency held tightly in place. She studied his face. Early 30s, maybe. Tired eyes. Not from a long night. From long months. "You have 5 seconds." "My daughter," he said. The word hung in the air. Her body went still. "She used to come here." The greenhouse suddenly felt smaller. "You're mistaken." "I'm not." Her heart started beating harder, but her voice stayed flat. "No one comes here without clearance." She did. The baby's breathing was slow and warm against her collarbone. "What's her name?" the man asked quietly. The question landed wrong. Too personal. Too direct. "You don't get to ask me that." "I'm not asking about your baby." A thin line formed between her brows. "I'm asking about the woman who lived here before you." Her throat tightened. The estate had changed hands 2 years ago. Quietly. She'd bought it under a holding company. Very few people knew the history. "She doesn't live here anymore," she said. "I know." His hands were empty now, hanging at his sides. He didn't step closer. "She left without my daughter." The words didn't break. They didn't tremble. They just existed. She felt something shift inside her. Not sympathy. Not yet. Something more cautious. "And you think she's here?" she asked. "I thought she might be." The baby let out a soft breath and pressed closer to her chest. "This isn't a shelter," she said. "I know." He kept saying that. Her mind moved quickly, sorting through records, dates, staff transitions. The previous owner had sold under pressure. There had been rumors. She hadn't looked deeper. She hadn't needed to. "You trespassed," she said. "Yes." "And you picked up my child." "Yes." The honesty unsettled her more than denial would have. "Why?" He looked at the baby, then back at her. She was crying. Something in her chest tightened again. I heard it from the side path. No one came. The nanny must have stepped away, just for a minute, just long enough. "I waited," he continued. "I thought someone would show up. And when no one did, she kept crying." The greenhouse air felt thick now. "So you decided to climb over a fence and play hero?" "No." His jaw shifted slightly. "I decided to stop the sound." That wasn't what she expected. He didn't say it proudly. He didn't say it kindly either. Just factual. She searched his face for something unstable, something reckless. She didn't find it. "You could have walked away," she said. "Yes." "Why didn't you?" He hesitated then. The first real hesitation. "Because I remember that sound." The baby's small fingers twitched against her shoulder. "And I can't walk away from it." The word settled between them, heavy but not dramatic. Her phone screen dimmed in her hand. She didn't call security. Not yet. The silence after that didn't feel empty. It felt crowded. She shifted the baby slightly higher against her shoulder. The warmth grounded her. The steady breath, the weight, real, present. He stayed where he was, not pleading, not pushing. "Your daughter," she said carefully. "How old?" 4. The number landed in her chest harder than she expected. "And you think she was brought here?" "I think her mother had nowhere else to go." That wasn't the same thing. "You're making assumptions." "I am." He didn't argue it. A breeze moved through the open greenhouse door, carrying in the smell of damp grass. Somewhere beyond the hedges, a car passed on the distant road. The estate felt less sealed now, less controlled. She studied him again. His clothes weren't expensive, but they weren't dirty either. He hadn't come to steal. There was no bag, no tools, no nervous scanning of the property. Just him. "You understand how this looks," she said. "Yes." "And you still walked in?" "Yes." Her jaw tightened. "You could have asked at the gate." "They would have turned me away." "They should have." He nodded. "That doesn't change why I came." The baby made a soft whimper. Instinct moved her before thought did. She rocked gently. A small rhythm she didn't know she'd memorized. His eyes flicked to the movement. Not intrusive. Just noticing. You said she used to come here, she said. Used to. When? About a year ago. A year. She had moved in 8 months ago. That meant she wasn't here while I owned the house. I didn't know that. You didn't check? With who? She didn't answer. He exhaled slowly. I've been to 3 addresses in the past 6 months. Each one wrong. The baby's fingers tightened slightly in her blouse. She took my daughter during a custody exchange, he continued. Said she was going to her sister's. She never arrived. The words weren't loud, they didn't shake, but something in them had edges. You went to the police. Yes. And? They said she has parental rights. So do you. Yes. The air felt thin again. She's not listed as missing, he added, because technically she isn't. Her mind moved through legal definitions automatically. Technicalities. Custody gray areas. She knew how paperwork could blur reality. And you thought she might be hiding here, she said. I thought she might feel safe here. That was different. Why? He looked toward the ivy-covered wall, not at her. She worked here. Briefly. Her pulse shifted. As what? Assistant. Something administrative. She said the owner was rarely around. That had been true. And you believe she'd come back? I believe she'd returned somewhere familiar. The baby's breathing changed, a small hitch. She adjusted her hold again, smoothing a hand over soft hair. You broke in because of familiarity, she said quietly. I climbed the side fence because the gate was locked. That's breaking in. Yes. He didn't flinch from the word. Footsteps sounded faintly from inside the house. Distant. Lila's voice carried through a cracked window, still on the phone, laughing lightly. Anger flickered then, quick and sharp. She left her alone, she murmured. He heard it but didn't comment. The weight of the moment shifted slightly. The threat she'd felt when she first saw him wasn't gone, but it had changed shape. You should have woken someone, she said. I didn't want to cause panic. A humorless breath left her. You think this isn't panic? For you, maybe. There it was. Not an accusation, just perspective. She looked at the greenhouse door again, the open path, the oversight. You said she kept crying, she said. Yes. For how long? Long enough. That answer sat heavily. Her daughter rarely cried for long. Staff responded quickly. That was the point of having staff. A small thread of doubt moved through her. Not about him. About the house. About control. What's your name? She asked. Daniel. The name didn't spark recognition. You don't seem surprised I haven't called security yet, she said. I am. Then why are you still calm? He considered that. I've already been escorted out of places like this, he said. Yelling doesn't help. Places like this. She knew what he meant. She didn't like that she knew. You're not getting anything from me, she said. I didn't come for anything from you. Then why stay? His jaw tightened slightly. Because if she was ever here, someone might remember her. He wasn't talking about money. He was talking about hope. Hope was messy. Hope made people climb fences. A long second passed. You said she worked here briefly, she said. Do you know when? Late winter. Last year. That would have been 3 months before the sale. She left suddenly. Yes. How do you know? She stopped coming home around the same time. The words were steady. Too steady. She studied him again. There was no wildness in him, no frantic energy, just fatigue layered over persistence. And you're certain she'd come back here? No. The honesty again. I just ran out of other places. That landed harder than the rest. Ran out. The baby shifted, eyelids fluttering open for a second before closing again. She made a small sound, searching. Daniel's body reacted before he seemed aware of it. A half step forward, then he caught himself and stayed back. That instinct. It wasn't theatrical, it was reflex. You have a child, she said. Yes. And you'd pick up any crying baby? A pause. Yes. She believed him. That unsettled her more than anything else. Leela's footsteps grew closer. The back door opened somewhere inside the house. Voices moved through the hall. This moment was about to break. She made a decision she didn't fully understand yet. "You'll wait by the side path," she said quietly. He blinked once. "What?" "Don't speak. Don't come closer." He didn't argue. "If anyone asks, you were looking for work." "That's not why. I know." The word came out sharper than intended. She adjusted the baby against her chest and stepped toward the greenhouse door. "Wait by the side path," she repeated. He moved then. Slowly, not toward the house, but toward the narrow strip of gravel that curved along the hedge. She watched him go. Not like someone watching a threat, like someone watching a choice. She didn't call security, and she didn't know yet what that meant. Lila froze when she saw her. Not because of the baby, because of her face. "Is everything okay?" Lila asked too quickly. The baby was still half asleep against her shoulder. Warm, heavy, unaware of anything that had almost shifted. "Yes," she said. Her voice was controlled. That part of her worked even when the rest of her didn't. "Why was the side gate open?" Lila blinked. I don't know. I thought Marco locked it after the landscaping crew left." He didn't. A pause. "I'll call him," Lila offered. "Later." She stepped past her into the kitchen. Clean counters, quiet appliances. A half-cut lemon on the board. Normal. Ordinary. Her heart hadn't caught up yet. "Was she crying long?" she asked, not looking at Lila. "Crying?" Lila frowned. "No. I put her down about 20 minutes ago. She was fine." 20 minutes? She wasn't fine. Lila stiffened. "I was on a call, but the monitor was on. It wasn't loud enough." Silence stretched between them. Not loud, just present. Lila's eyes dropped to the baby's face. Guilt flickered there. Brief, real. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. She nodded once. Not forgiving. Not punishing. "Close the gate," she said. "Now." Lila moved quickly. The house felt different as soon as she was alone again. Larger. Emptier. She walked down the hall toward the nursery without turning on lights. Late afternoon shadows pressed long across the marble floors. The baby stirred when she laid her down, but didn't wake. She stood there a moment longer than necessary. Watching. Making sure. Her hand hovered over the crib rail. Then she stepped back. The monitor sat on the dresser. Volume low. She turned it up. The smallest sound now carried sharply through the room. Too late. She stepped into the hallway and leaned against the wall. The cool surface grounded her. He was still outside, waiting. The thought didn't irritate her the way it should have. It pressed somewhere deeper. She walked toward her office instead of the front door, sat down at the desk, opened her laptop. Ownership records pulled up quickly. The purchase. The holding company. Previous transfers. The estate had been sold in liquidation. Financial strain. Sudden. She scrolled further. Employee list. There it was. Her name appeared briefly in the archive payroll records. Administrative assistant. Contract. 3 months. Ended abruptly. No forwarding address listed. Her jaw tightened. He hadn't made that part up. A knock sounded lightly on the office door. She didn't look up. "Yes." "Gates locked," Lila said. Marco confirmed. "Good." A pause lingered. "There's a man outside," Lila added carefully. "I know." Lila didn't move. "Do you want me to call?" "No." The word came quickly. Another silence. "He says he's waiting," Mila said. "I told him to." Lila hesitated. "Is he dangerous?" The question settled differently now. "No," she said. She wasn't sure how she knew that, but she did. "Stay inside," she added. "Don't approach him." "Of course." The door closed softly. She leaned back in her chair. Her daughter's face flashed in her mind. Calm, fed, burped. He'd done it correctly. Not guessed, correctly. That detail refused to fade. She closed the laptop slowly. This was simple. He trespassed. He needed to leave. There was no reason to complicate it. But she didn't stand up right away. Instead, she looked at the framed photo on her desk. Not of the baby, of her father. The only person who had ever told her that money didn't erase obligation. She disagreed at the time. She'd been younger then, more certain. A car door slammed faintly outside the gates, someone passing by. Normal sounds. Her world had rules, barriers, layers. He had climbed over one of them without asking, and he hadn't taken anything. She stood finally, walked through the kitchen and out the side door. The air had cooled slightly, the sky shifting toward evening. He was where she'd told him to be, standing by the gravel path, hands empty, shoulders straight but not rigid. He didn't step forward when he saw her. She appreciated that. "You confirm she worked here," he said quietly. Not a question. "Yes." His breath caught barely, but she heard it. "For 3 months," she added. He nodded once. "That lines up." "With what?" "When things started to change." She crossed her arms more to steady herself than to signal distance. "You understand she doesn't live here anymore." "I understand. And I don't know where she is." "I figured." The calm in his voice wasn't resignation. It was something heavier. "You could have called first," she said. "I didn't have a number. You could have left." "I did. Twice." She frowned slightly. "I stood at the gate 2 nights ago," he said. "Then I left." "Why come back?" The question sat unspoken. He answered it anyway. "I heard a baby cry today." Her chest tightened again. "And that was enough?" "Yes." She studied him in the fading light. "You don't even know she brought your daughter here." "No." "You don't know if she's in this state." "No." "You don't know if she's safe." His jaw shifted. "No." The honesty was exhausting. "What do you expect me to do?" she asked. He didn't respond immediately. Then, carefully, "Tell me if she ever mentioned leaving suddenly." A strange request. "You think she confided in the homeowner?" "I think people notice more than they realize." The words landed differently than they should have. She had noticed something when she reviewed the property after purchase. A drawer left half-filled in the upstairs office. A scarf tucked behind a cabinet. Small things. At the time, they'd felt like clutter. Now they felt like absence. "She left quickly," she admitted. His shoulders lowered slightly. Not relief. Confirmation. "Was she afraid?" he asked. "I don't know." "She wasn't careless," he murmured. "You just said she took your daughter without telling you." "Yes. That's careless." He shook his head slightly. "No. That's desperate." The word stayed between them. Desperate people did reckless things. Desperate parents did worse. "She never contacted you?" she asked. "Once." Her pulse shifted. "When?" 3 weeks after she left. "And?" "She said she needed time." "For what?" "She didn't say." The wind moved through the hedge again. Leaves brushing softly. "Did she sound unstable?" she asked. He hesitated. She sounded tired. Tired. She thought of the payroll records. 3 months of employment. Then gone. "You think she was hiding," she said. "I think she was running from something." "And you don't know what?" "No." Silence settled again. The baby monitor inside the house let out a faint crackle through the open kitchen window. Both of them heard it. His eyes lifted instinctively. Her body responded before her mind did. She turned toward the house. Then she stopped. He wasn't moving, just listening. The monitor crackled again. A small shift of fabric, then quiet. "She's fine," she said. "I know." That answer felt different now. She faced him again. "You can't stay here." "I won't. Not tonight. Not tomorrow." He nodded. "I just needed to know." "Know what?" "That she wasn't here." The finality in his voice carried weight. He had held on to this address longer than he should have, and she had just taken it from him. "I'm sorry," she said. The words felt unfamiliar in her mouth. He accepted them with a small nod. "Thank you for not calling security," he said. She didn't respond, because she still didn't fully understand why she hadn't. He turned slightly toward the gate, then paused. "If she ever reaches out," he said quietly, "please tell her I'm not angry." The request settled deep. "Just tell her to let me see our daughter." He didn't wait for a promise. He walked toward the fence, and this time she didn't stop him. She watched him climb back over the fence like he'd done it 100 times. Not fast, not clumsy. He moved with the kind of care people develop when they've learned that one wrong step costs too much. When his shoes hit the other side, he didn't look back. He just started walking down the narrow road that curved away from the property. The sky was turning darker. Not night yet, just that in-between color where everything looks less certain than it did an hour ago. She stayed by the hedge longer than she needed to. Then she went inside and locked the side door. The click of the lock sounded louder than it should have. Lila was in the kitchen, standing still like she'd been waiting. "He left?" Lila asked. "Yes." Lila looked like she wanted to ask more. She didn't. She just nodded once, careful. "I'll check the cameras," Lila offered. She paused. "No," she said. "Not tonight." Lila blinked. "Are you sure?" "Yes." She didn't want to watch him again. She didn't want to see how long he'd stood there before he came in. She didn't want to see her baby crying on a screen while no one moved. Some things were better left as memory instead of evidence. She walked upstairs. The nursery was dim. Only the small nightlight was on. The baby slept with one hand curled near her cheek. Peaceful, too peaceful for how close things had come. She sat down in the chair beside the crib. Not because she needed to, because she couldn't leave. Her thoughts kept circling back to the way he'd held her, not like a stranger, not like a man trying to prove he was good, like someone who had learned how fragile a baby's neck was the hard way, like someone who had stood awake at night with a child who wouldn't stop crying and knew the panic that came when nothing worked. She stayed there until the baby shifted and sighed again. Only then did she stand. Her phone buzzed as she stepped into the hallway. A message from her assistant. Tomorrow's schedule. Meetings. Investors. A charity board call. The normal world waiting to reclaim her. She stared at the screen and felt something cold settle behind her ribs. She typed one sentence. "Cancel the morning." Then another. "Clear my calendar." She didn't send it right away. That kind of decision didn't belong to her old life. The one where she moved through days like they were lists to complete. She sent it anyway. Downstairs, the house was quiet. Lila had gone home. The staff quarters were dark. She walked into her office again. The laptop was still open. Payroll record. Name. End date. She stared at the screen until the letters blurred slightly. Then she searched the name in a different database. Private. Not illegal, but close enough to make her stomach tighten. A service her lawyers used when they needed to find someone quietly. Nothing came up. No current address. No utility connections. No listed employment. The absence felt deliberate. She sat back. A person didn't vanish by accident. She closed the laptop, then opened it again, as if doing it twice might change what she'd seen. It didn't. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She searched the name again, this time through court records. There it was. A custody dispute. Filed almost 2 years ago. Dismissed. Refiled. Then closed again. No final ruling, just procedural notes, and then a restraining order request denied. The denial didn't mean the claim was false, it just meant it wasn't proven enough. She stared at the screen for a long time. She didn't like the feeling rising in her throat. It wasn't fear. It was something closer to recognition. The kind that came when you realized the story wasn't clean. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her head of security. She didn't answer. She watched it ring until it stopped. Then she set the phone face down. The house felt too large now, like every hallway was longer than before. She walked back to the kitchen and poured herself water. The glass shook slightly against the counter. She hadn't noticed her hands trembling until then. She pressed her palm against the countertop until it steadied. She thought about calling Daniel. She didn't have his number. She thought about the way he'd said he wasn't angry. That line didn't make sense unless someone had accused him of being. Unless the woman had told herself he would be. Or told her daughter that. A baby monitor crackled again upstairs. She froze. The sound wasn't loud, just static and a soft whine. Then the baby cried. Not long, just a sudden, sharp burst. Her body moved immediately. No thought, no hesitation. She was halfway up the stairs before she realized she'd left the water running. The baby was awake, face red, fists clenched. Not hungry. Not fully. Just startled. She lifted her gently, held her close. Her daughter's cry softened quickly. Her small body settled. She rocked once, twice, and without meaning to, she started humming under her breath. Not a song, just sound. The baby's eyelids drooped again. Her breathing slowed, and in that moment, standing there in the dark nursery, she thought of Daniel outside the hedge, hearing a baby cry and not being able to walk away. She understood it. That understanding didn't feel good. It felt like responsibility. She laid her daughter back down, smoothed the blanket. Then she went downstairs and sat at the dining table instead of her office. The dining room was too formal, too untouched. The kind of room designed for people who didn't actually eat together. She sat there anyway. Her mind kept returning to the same question. What was she supposed to do with what she knew now? She hadn't asked Daniel for proof. No photos, no documents. She hadn't demanded a last name. She just believed him enough to let him leave quietly. That alone felt dangerous. She picked up her phone and scrolled through the staff directory. Marco. Security. She hesitated, then called. He answered on the second ring. Ma'am? Did you see the man today? She asked. A pause. Yes. Did he threaten anyone? No. Did he take anything? No. Did he take anything? No. Another pause. It looked like he'd been standing outside for a while. How long? Marco exhaled. Maybe an hour before he came in. He didn't try to break the gate. He just waited. She closed her eyes briefly. And you didn't approach him. We're trained not to unless there's an incident. Was the gate open when he came in? Marco hesitated. No, it was unlocked. The word hit her harder than she expected. Unlocked? She repeated. Yes, ma'am. She felt her stomach tighten. That gate is never unlocked, she said. Marco didn't respond. Who had access today? The landscaping crew. And the nanny. And Leela. And you. Yes. She stared at the table surface, glossy and smooth. The baby had been crying. No one came. The gate was unlocked. And Daniel hadn't forced anything. He just walked in. Check the cameras, she said. Marco's voice sharpened. Right now? Yes. Understood. She ended the call. Her fingers stayed on the phone a moment longer than necessary. She could still stop this. She could still tell herself it was nothing. A coincidence. A careless staff mistake. But something inside her didn't accept coincidence anymore. She stood and walked to the window. Outside, the hedge line was dark, the gravel path barely visible. Daniel was gone, but she could still feel his presence there, like the air remembered him. She turned away from the window and went back to her office. Opened the laptop again. This time she searched not for the woman's name, but for any report connected to the estate before she bought it. Police calls, noise complaints, ambulance dispatches. There was one, 16 months ago. Domestic disturbance. No charges filed, no follow-up listed. She stared at the date. It was during the exact month the woman had worked there. Her throat tightened. The room felt colder. Her mind tried to do what it always did: organize, rationalize, reduce it to manageable parts. But the truth didn't come in parts. It came in weight. A woman had worked here. Something had happened. She'd disappeared. And now a man had climbed a fence and fed her baby because no one else came. She sat back slowly, and for the first time since she'd become a mother, she felt something she hadn't expected to feel. Not fear for herself. Fear for what kind of person she might become if she ignored this. Her phone buzzed again. Marco. She answered immediately. "Ma'am," he said, voice lower now. "I checked the footage." "And?" Another pause. "The gate was unlocked from the inside this morning." Her breath caught. "Who unlocked it?" Marco hesitated. "We don't have a clear shot, but someone in staff uniform was near it." Her fingers tightened around the phone. "Can you identify them?" "No." Silence. Then Marco spoke again. "And ma'am, the man didn't climb the fence the first time." Her chest tightened. "What do you mean?" "He walked in." She closed her eyes. A slow, sick understanding moved through her. Daniel hadn't broken into her life. Someone had opened the door. And whoever it was, they'd left her baby alone long enough for a stranger to hear her cry. She didn't sleep. Not fully. She lay in bed with the monitor beside her, volume higher than it had ever been. Every shift of fabric sounded like a warning. Every breath through the speaker pulled her halfway upright. Around 3 in the morning, she gave up pretending and went downstairs. The house at that hour felt honest. No staff, no movement, just walls and quiet. She walked the path from the kitchen to the side gate herself, barefoot. The stone was cold. The lock looked normal, clean, unforced. Nothing broken. She touched it anyway, as if it might confess. Someone had opened it from inside. Someone with access. She stood there longer than she should have, replaying the camera comment in her head. Staff uniform. That meant nothing and everything. The landscaping crew wore dark shirts, so did security. So did Leela some days. She didn't like suspicion. It sat wrong in her chest. Back inside, she made coffee she didn't want. By 7, she had already sent 3 messages, one to her lawyer, one to a private investigator she had used years ago for a corporate issue, and one she hadn't expected to send, to Marco. Bring him back. She stared at the message for a long time before hitting send. She didn't explain who him was. Marco knew. The reply came quickly. If he's willing. She didn't answer that. Instead, she walked upstairs to the nursery. Her daughter was awake, staring at the ceiling like it held secrets. When she lifted her, the baby smiled. Small, unaware, the weight of that trust pressed against her ribs. Downstairs, Leela arrived early. She looked nervous. "I checked the schedule," Leela said. "You cleared your meetings." "Yes. Is something wrong?" She held her daughter a little closer. "Not yet," she said. Lila swallowed. "Marco told me about the gate. And I didn't unlock it." The quickness of the denial made her pause. "I didn't ask," she said quietly. Lila's shoulders dropped slightly. "Do you think someone did it on purpose?" Lila asked. "I think someone made a choice." That was enough. At 9:30, Marco called. "He's here," he said. Her stomach tightened. "Where?" "At the gate." "Is he alone?" "Yes." She closed her eyes briefly. "Let him in." There was a beat of silence on the line. "Yes, ma'am." She hung up. Her daughter was in the playpen now, chewing on a soft toy. The house felt alert, like it was waiting too. When the knock came, it wasn't loud. She opened the door herself. Daniel stood there, looking more tired than yesterday. He didn't step forward. "I wasn't going to come back," he said. "I know." His eyes searched her face, trying to read something she wasn't sure she understood yet. "Why am I here?" he asked. "Because someone opened the gate. Because your story didn't end yesterday. Because I don't like not knowing." She didn't say any of that. "I need to ask you something," she said. He nodded. "Come in." He hesitated this time. "Are you sure?" "No," she said honestly. "But come in." He stepped inside carefully, like the floor might reject him. The baby noticed movement and turned her head. Daniel froze. She watched his face change in that small second. Not longing. Not entitlement. Just recognition of something fragile. "Stay there," she said softly. He did. "Tell me about the custody dispute." His jaw tightened slightly. "You looked it up?" "Yes." He nodded once. "She said I was controlling." "Were you?" The question didn't come out accusing, just direct. He considered it. I asked where she was going. That's not control. She said it was. And you? I said I just wanted to know when she'd be back. His voice stayed even. She left anyway. Yes. The baby made a small, frustrated sound, dropping her toy. Daniel's body reacted again, half a shift, forward then stopped. She picked up the toy herself and handed it back. You said there was a domestic disturbance report here, she said. His eyes sharpened slightly. I didn't know that. It was during the month she worked here. A silence passed between them. Did she ever mention an incident at work? She asked. He shook his head. She stopped talking about work toward the end. Why? She said it wasn't safe. The word landed heavy. Safe from who? She didn't say. Her mind moved quickly now. Staff uniform. Gate unlocked. Domestic disturbance. She filed a restraining order against you, she said. Yes. Why? She said I scared her. And did you? He held her gaze steadily. I raised my voice once. Once, yes. Over what? He hesitated. Over her not telling me where she was taking our daughter. The baby started to fuss, louder this time. Without thinking, she lifted her again. Daniel watched, silent. The baby cried harder now, a sharp, uneven sound. She checked the diaper. Dry. Not hungry, just restless. The cry pierced the room in a way it hadn't yesterday. Daniel's hands flexed at his sides. May I? He asked quietly. The request hung between them. Every rule she had ever built screamed no. But something else, quieter, steadier, asked, why not? She stepped closer slowly. Sit, she said. He sat on the edge of the couch. Careful. She placed the baby in his arms herself this time. Not because she trusted him fully, because she wanted to see. He adjusted instantly, supporting her neck, tilting slightly so the baby could see his face. Hey, he murmured softly. Not a speech, just one word. The baby's cry hitched. He didn't bounce her aggressively, didn't shush loudly. He just swayed once, slow. Her daughter blinked at him. The crying softened. Daniel's jaw tightened, like he was holding something back. You said she sounded tired, she said quietly. Yes. Not afraid? No. Not unstable? No. Then why leave? He looked down at the baby. I think she thought she was protecting someone. From you? He didn't answer right away. I don't know. The baby's breathing slowed. Again. The room felt smaller but not suffocating. Different. She watched his hands carefully. No tension, no claiming, just steady support. The monitor crackled faintly upstairs, forgotten. Daniel, she said. He looked up. If I find something, anything, you understand this doesn't mean you're right. I know. And it doesn't mean she was wrong. I know. His eyes dropped back to the baby. I just need the truth, he said. The words weren't loud. They weren't dramatic. They were tired. And for the first time since this started, she felt something shift fully into place. This wasn't about a gate. It wasn't about trespassing. It was about a woman who had worked in her house and left scared of something, and a man who didn't know if he was the villain or the one left behind. The baby made a small content sound, and neither of them moved. The baby fell asleep in his arms. Not slowly, not by accident. 1 minute her fingers were curled in the fabric of his shirt, her breath uneven from leftover tears. The next, her mouth softened, her body gave in. Daniel didn't look up when it happened. He just felt it. She saw it in the way his shoulders eased a fraction, the way his thumb stopped moving because it didn't need to anymore. Give her back, she said quietly. He nodded and stood carefully, every movement deliberate. He placed the baby into her arms the same way he had yesterday, supporting her neck, waiting until the weight fully shifted before letting go. He stepped back immediately. Space. He understood space. She walked the baby to the nursery again, laid her down. stayed until she was certain the sleep would hold. When she came back downstairs, Daniel was standing by the window, looking out toward the hedge line. He didn't turn around. "You said she thought she was protecting someone," she said. "Yes." "From what?" "I don't know." He exhaled slowly. "She changed in the last few months. Quieter. Checking the door locks twice. Jumping at small noises." Her stomach tightened. "That was before she left?" "Yes." "And you didn't ask why?" "I did." "And?" She said I was imagining things. Silence sat between them. "Did you ever come here while she was working?" she asked. "Once." Her eyes sharpened. "When?" "Near the end." "Why?" She stopped answering her phone. That felt familiar. "What happened?" she asked. "She met me at the gate," he said. "Wouldn't let me in." "Did you argue?" "Yes." "How loud?" "Loud enough for security to notice." "The domestic disturbance report. Did you threaten her?" "No." "Did she say you did?" "She said I was embarrassing her." "That's not what I asked." He turned to face her then. "No," he said clearly. "I didn't threaten her." She studied him for a long moment. "And after that?" "She left the job 2 weeks later." The timeline locked into place slowly. "You think something happened here," she said. "I think she was afraid before she left me." That detail mattered. "Afraid of you?" "No." The answer came too fast. She didn't push it. "Marco said someone unlocked the gate yesterday," she said instead. Daniel's eyes shifted slightly. "From inside." He didn't respond. "You didn't respond." "You didn't force entry," she continued. "No." "You walked in." "Yes." "Because it was open." "Yes." She crossed her arms again, more for stability than distance. "That means someone let you in without speaking to you." A small crease formed between his brows. "I didn't see anyone." "You didn't have to." The implication settled slowly. He looked back toward the window. "You think someone wanted me to come in?" "I think someone didn't stop you." Silence stretched. Her phone buzzed on the table. Marco again. She answered without breaking eye contact with Daniel. "Yes." "We identified the uniform," Marco said. Her pulse shifted. "And?" "It was one of the landscaping crew. Temporary hire. First week." Her grip tightened slightly on the phone. "Name?" "Rafael Ortiz." "Background check?" "Clean. No record." "Where is he now?" "He didn't show up this morning." The room felt smaller again. "Call his emergency contact," she said. "We did." No answer. She closed her eyes briefly. "Keep trying." "Yes, ma'am." She ended the call. Daniel was watching her now. "Someone's missing?" he asked. "Temporary worker," she said. "Unlocked the gate. Didn't come back today." His jaw tightened. "Do you think he knew her?" Daniel asked. "I don't know." But the thought had already formed. Temporary hire. Gate unlocked. Woman afraid. Domestic disturbance. The pieces didn't fit cleanly, but they weren't random anymore. "Did she ever mention someone at work?" she asked. Daniel shook his head slowly. "She said she kept to herself." "Did she have friends?" "Not really." The baby monitor crackled upstairs again. Both of them looked up instinctively. It went quiet. "She wouldn't disappear for no reason," Daniel said softly. "That's not always true," she replied. He looked at her. "You think she left on purpose. I think people make choices we don't understand. And you think this is one of them. I don't know what this is." The honesty sat heavy between them. A sudden sound cut through the air. Not the monitor. A crash. From the backyard. Both of them turned toward the noise. Another sharp sound. Metal against stone. Daniel moved first, this time, but not toward the door. Toward her. Instinct. "Stay here," he said quietly. She didn't argue. He stepped toward the side entrance cautiously. Not reckless. Not charging. She followed 2 steps behind anyway. Through the glass door she saw it. One of the large patio umbrellas had snapped loose from its base and fallen against the garden table. Wind had picked up. Nothing more. Daniel exhaled slowly. She felt the tension leave her body in uneven waves. False alarm. He stepped outside carefully and lifted the umbrella upright, secured it back into place without being asked. The movement was practical, familiar. When he came back inside, he didn't comment on her following him. "Do you want me to leave?" he asked. The question felt different now. Not defensive, not wounded, just direct. She thought about the empty morning she'd cleared, the unanswered calls, the missing worker. "I want answers," she said. "So do I. And if the answers don't favor you—" His jaw shifted slightly. "Then I'll live with that." She believed him. That was the problem. Because belief came with responsibility. "You can't keep coming here," she said. "I won't. But if I find something," he waited, "I'll contact you." A flicker of something moved across his face. Relief, maybe. Or fear of it. "Thank you," he said. She didn't respond. He walked toward the door this time without hesitation. Before stepping out, he paused. "If she was afraid here," he said quietly, "please don't ignore that." The words settled deep. Then he left. She locked the door behind him. This time, the click didn't feel protective. It felt like a line drawn in sand she wasn't sure she could stand behind. Upstairs, the baby stirred again. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a question refused to stay quiet. If the gate had been unlocked on purpose, it wasn't to let him in. It was to let someone else out. The investigator arrived the next afternoon, not in a dramatic way. No coat, no sunglasses, just a quiet man in his 50s with a folder under his arm and a look that said he'd seen too many families come apart. She met him in the office. He didn't waste time. "You said it involves a child," he said. "Yes." He opened the folder and slid a thin stack of papers across her desk. "I ran a preliminary search on the woman," he said. "Not much. She's good at disappearing." Her stomach tightened. "Good at it," she repeated. He nodded once. Not everyone knows how to drop off the grid. Most people leave trails. She didn't. She stared at the paper. Employment gaps. Old addresses. A few phone numbers that were no longer active. One thing stood out. A different name. Not Daniel's. Not hers. A man listed as an emergency contact on an old medical form. She tapped the line with her finger. "Who is that?" she asked. The investigator's face stayed neutral. "Her stepfather." The word sat wrong. "She has a stepfather," she said. "Yes, and he has a record." Her pulse sharpened. For what? The investigator didn't answer immediately. He watched her face first, like he was measuring how much she could handle before she started lying to herself. "Assault," he said. "Not recent, but not ancient either." Her throat tightened. "Against her?" "It doesn't say." The investigator leaned forward slightly. "But he was questioned 2 years ago in connection with a missing persons report." Her fingers went cold. "Missing who?" "A teenage girl. Not related. Same town. She was found alive a month later." She felt her stomach turn. The baby monitor crackled faintly upstairs, a reminder of why she was even sitting here. "Why wasn't he charged?" she asked. "No evidence strong enough." She sat back slowly. The investigator's voice stayed steady. "There's more," he said. She didn't speak. She didn't nod. She just waited. He turned a page. "She filed for a name change 3 years ago," he said. "Not finalized. Withdrawn." Her mind moved quickly. Why withdraw it? Could be money. Could be fear. Could be pressure. Pressure. The word landed with weight. The investigator slid another sheet forward. "This is the part that concerns me," he said. She looked down. A police report. Domestic disturbance. Not the one tied to the estate, a different one. Her hands tightened on the paper. It listed the stepfather's address and the date. 6 months ago. The same month Daniel said she began checking locks twice. Her throat tightened. "She went back," she whispered. The investigator nodded. "Seems like it." She stared at the page until her vision blurred slightly. Going back to someone like that didn't mean forgiveness. It meant you'd run out of options. The investigator watched her carefully. "You want me to locate her?" he asked. "Yes," she said immediately. The word came out too fast. Too certain. He didn't flinch. "It won't be quick," he said. "I don't care." He nodded slowly. "And Daniel?" he asked. She looked up sharply. "How do you know his name?" "I did a check on him too," the investigator said calmly. "You asked me to understand the situation. He's part of it." She didn't like that. But she didn't argue. "What did you find?" she asked. "Clean record. Stable work history. Custody filing matches what he told you." She swallowed. "So he wasn't lying?" "No." The investigator closed the folder. "But," he said. The word made her spine tighten. "But what?" "There's a reason she might be afraid of him," he said. Her breath caught. "Not because he's violent," he added. "Because he's persistent." She stared at him. "She might see persistence as a threat if she's been trapped before," he continued. "Even if he's not the one trapping her." The logic hit her hard. She sat still. The investigator stood. "I'll start with the stepfather," he said. "If she went back, that's where the trail begins." She nodded. He left quietly. The house felt heavier after he was gone, like the walls had absorbed the words and were holding them. She didn't move for a long time. Then she opened her phone and stared at her contacts. Marco. Her lawyer. Lila. No Daniel. No number. She promised she'd contact him if she found something. Now she had something. Not proof, but enough to make her chest ache. She called her lawyer instead. He answered quickly. She spoke without greeting. "I need you to pull everything you can on a man named—" She paused, checked the paper again. "Thomas Hargrove." Her lawyer went quiet for a second. Then, carefully, "Why?" "Because I think he's connected to someone who disappeared." Another pause. "You're not talking about your family, are you?" "No," she said, but her voice sounded strange even to her, like she wasn't sure she believed herself. "I want everything," she repeated, "and I want it quietly." Her lawyer exhaled. "Understood." She hung up. Upstairs, her daughter cried suddenly. Sharp. Immediate. Her body moved again without thought. When she reached the nursery, the baby was awake, face red. Not hungry. Not wet. Just scared. She lifted her and held her close. The baby clung to her shirt. She pressed her lips to her daughter's hair once. Her hand trembled. It wasn't about the baby crying anymore. It was about imagining another child crying somewhere else and no one coming. Daniel had come. That detail burned. She rocked slowly until her daughter calmed. When the baby's breathing evened out again, she sat down in the chair, still holding her. And she thought about what she hadn't said to Daniel. That she'd looked up the woman, that she'd found the stepfather. That she was now in the middle of something she couldn't unsee. She didn't want to be the kind of person who closed the door again, but she also didn't want to be the kind of person who opened it too wide. Outside, the wind pressed against the windows. She held her daughter tighter just for a moment. Then she whispered a sentence she hadn't planned. Not to the baby. To herself. "I'm not letting this go." 2 days passed with no word. That was what unsettled her most. Not silence. She was used to silence. She lived inside it most of the time. But this was different. This silence felt like something moving out of sight. She kept checking the nursery camera feed even when her daughter was asleep. She kept the gates locked. She made Marco double the night patrols. She didn't tell him why. She didn't tell anyone why. Leela started watching her differently. Not openly. Just small glances, the kind people give when they sense you're carrying something heavy, but don't know if they're allowed to ask. On the third morning, the investigator called. His voice sounded tighter than before. "I found her," he said. Her stomach dropped so fast she had to sit down. "Where?" she asked. "Not far," he replied. 50 minutes north. Small rental. Cash payments. Her hand tightened around the phone. She's alive? Yes. The word didn't bring relief the way she expected. It brought dread. Is the child with her? She asked. A pause. No. Her breath caught. No, she repeated. She's not with her, he said again, slower, and she wouldn't tell me where the child is. The room went still. She could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of the baby's toy rattling in the living room. Her voice came out low. Did she say why? She said she was protecting her. Protecting, the same word Daniel had guessed. From who? She asked. The investigator exhaled. She didn't say his name, but she kept repeating one phrase. What phrase? She kept saying, he'll take her and I'll never see her again. Her throat tightened. She closed her eyes. Daniel. Not violent, not cruel, but persistent, stable, documented. The kind of man a court might favor. Did she mention her stepfather? She asked. Yes, the investigator said, and that's where it gets worse. Her fingers went cold. He's been there, he continued. Not living with her, but visiting. She's still tied to him. A sick heaviness settled into her chest. Where is the child? She asked again. She wouldn't tell me. Her voice sharpened. Then how do you know she's not with her? Because I saw the apartment. No crib, no toys, no clothes, nothing. Her mind moved fast. Did you tell her Daniel is looking for her? I did. And? She cried, he said. Not dramatic, just quiet, like she didn't have the energy to fight her own emotions anymore. That image sat in her stomach like a stone. What did she say? She asked. She asked if he'd come with police. No, she said automatically. Then she stopped. She didn't know if that was true. I want to talk to her, she said. The investigator hesitated. She won't meet you, he said. Not in person. Then arrange a call. She agreed to one condition, he replied. Her jaw tightened. What condition? She wants to know you won't tell him where she is. The words hung in the air. She felt the weight of them settle into her hands, into her shoulders. Daniel had trusted her, not completely, but enough. And now she was being asked to choose. Her daughter babbled from the living room, happy, unaware. The sound made her throat tighten. What did you tell her? She asked. I told her I couldn't promise anything. That's why I'm calling you? She swallowed hard. Send me her number, she said. He did. When she ended the call, she sat still with the phone in her lap for a long time. She thought about Daniel standing by her window. The way he had asked to hold her baby instead of reaching for her. The way he had said he'd live with the truth, even if it didn't favor him. And she thought about the woman alone in some rental, tied to a man with a record, crying quietly when Daniel's name was spoken. People didn't cry like that if they were safe, but people also didn't keep a child hidden unless they believed something was coming. She stood and walked into the living room. Her daughter was on the floor with a soft block in her hands, chewing on it with full focus like it was the most important thing in the world. She crouched beside her, touched her cheek lightly. The baby smiled. That smile broke something small inside her. She went back to the kitchen, closed the door, and dialed the number. It rang 4 times. Then a woman answered. Her voice was thin. Hello? She didn't introduce herself at first. She listened. The breathing on the other end sounded shallow, like the woman was holding the phone too tightly. My name is, she began, then stopped. She didn't want to say her name. Not yet. Not like it was a weapon. I own the estate, she said instead. Silence. Then a small, almost broken sound. I didn't mean to, the woman whispered. The words came out fast, tangled. I didn't mean to leave anything behind. I didn't mean for anyone to find out. I didn't mean stop, she said quietly. The woman went silent. I'm not calling about furniture, she said. Another pause. You met Daniel, the woman whispered. Yes. The woman's breathing changed. He's still looking, she said. I know. A shaky exhale. He shouldn't have come there, the woman said. He came because he heard my baby crying. The woman didn't respond. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded hollow. Of course he did. The sentence was filled with something that sounded like defeat. He thinks you took your daughter, she said. The woman made a small sound. I did, she admitted. There was no pride in it, no defiance, just confession. Where is she? She asked. The woman didn't answer. Her silence stretched long enough that the air in the kitchen felt too still. She's safe, the woman said finally. Safe where? With someone I trust. That's not an answer. I can't tell you, the woman whispered. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. The sound wasn't dramatic. It was exhausted. Is she with your stepfather? She asked. The line went dead quiet. Then the woman spoke, so softly she almost didn't hear it. No. But the word didn't carry conviction. She's not, the woman repeated, louder, like she was trying to convince herself. Her stomach tightened. Listen to me, she said, voice low. I looked into him. Silence. I know about the assault, she continued. I know about the missing girl report. I know about the police call 6 months ago. The woman's breath hitched. You don't understand, she whispered. Then make me understand. A pause. Then the woman spoke in a rush, like the words were breaking out of her. He found me again, she said. I tried to stay away. I tried. I changed numbers. I moved. I stayed in shelters. But he found me. He always finds me. Her throat tightened. And Daniel? She asked. Another pause. He's not like that, the woman admitted, voice trembling. He's not. He's good. That's the problem. She closed her eyes. What do you mean? If he gets custody, the woman whispered, the court will give it to him, and then he'll take her away from me forever, and then my stepfather will know where she is. The logic hit like a slap. Not sane, not fully, but it had a shape. A pattern of fear that didn't need to be rational to be powerful. You're hiding her so she doesn't get found, she said. Yes. And you think Daniel will lead them to her? I think the system will, the woman whispered, and I can't risk it. Her hands clenched around the phone. You're making him suffer, she said. The woman let out a small sound like she'd been stabbed. I know, she whispered. I know, but I don't know what else to do. The words came out raw, stripped of anything rehearsed. And in that moment, she believed her. Not because she wanted to, because she recognized the sound of someone cornered. Where is your daughter? She asked again, softer. The woman's breathing turned uneven. I can't tell you, she repeated. You have to, she said. I can't. Her voice hardened. You can't keep her hidden forever. The woman's voice cracked. You don't understand what he does, she whispered. He doesn't hit you. He doesn't leave bruises. He just gets inside you. And he doesn't stop. Her stomach turned. The baby laughed in the other room, loud and bright. It felt like another universe. You need help, she said quietly. The woman let out a broken laugh. I tried to get help. You need better help. Silence. Then the woman said something that made her blood run cold. He knows about your house. Her throat tightened. What? He asked me about it, the woman whispered. He said he saw the listing years ago. He said it was the kind of place someone like you would buy. He said maybe you'd be useful. Her grip tightened so hard her fingers hurt. You're saying your stepfather knows I live there? Yes. The woman's voice dropped even lower. And he knows you have a baby. She didn't remember ending the call. She remembered the sound of her own breathing. Too loud, too shallow. The kitchen felt smaller. The walls closer. The windows too wide. He knows you have a baby. The sentence replayed without permission. She walked into the living room slowly. Her daughter was still on the floor, turning the block over in her hands like the world had no edges. She crouched beside her, touched her hair, counted her breaths. 1, 2, 3. Normal. She stood and called Marco. Lock down the property, she said. A pause. Ma'am. Full protocol. No one in or out without my approval. His voice sharpened instantly. Is there a threat? Yes. She didn't explain. Understood. She ended the call and dialed her lawyer next. I need an emergency protective order drafted, she said. For who? She hesitated. For a minor, she said finally. Not mine. There was a long silence on the other end. That's complicated, he said carefully. I don't care. You need evidence. I'm working on it. She hung up before he could argue. Her hands were shaking again. She forced them still by pressing them flat against the counter. He knows you have a baby. She replayed everything. The unlocked gate. The temporary worker who vanished. The domestic disturbance at the estate. The stepfather visiting the woman's apartment. Daniel climbing the fence because he heard crying. And now this. She called the investigator again. He knows about my house, she said without greeting. The investigator didn't ask who. Understood, he replied. I want surveillance on him. I already have someone watching, he said. Her chest tightened. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wasn't sure yet. And now I am. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Is he dangerous? He's patient, the investigator said. That wasn't comfort. That's not what I asked. He doesn't leave evidence, the investigator continued. He doesn't escalate unless he benefits. She closed her eyes briefly. He benefits from access, she said. Yes. And he knows about my daughter. A pause. Yes. The room felt like it tilted slightly. What does he want? She asked. Control, the investigator said simply. The word landed clean. She looked at her daughter again. Control. That was what this was about. Not love. Not custody. Control over where the child existed. Control over who got to keep her. Control over who was afraid. She thought of Daniel's face when the baby stopped crying in his arms. That wasn't control. That was relief. She dialed a number she hadn't saved but had memorized in 2 days. It rang twice. Hello? Daniel answered. His voice sounded guarded. It's me, she said. Silence. I found her. His breath caught sharply. Where? Alive, she said first, but not safe. He didn't speak. She's tied to her stepfather, she continued. His voice changed. Lower. I know. You know? She went back once before we separated, he said. I thought she'd cut him off. She didn't. A long pause. Is our daughter with him? He asked. The question broke slightly at the edges. I don't know, she said honestly. He exhaled, slow and strained. She thinks you'll take the child and she'll never see her again, she added. Silence. Then, quietly, I wouldn't. I believe you, she said. She hadn't planned to say that, but it was true. Another pause. She said he knows about my house, she said. Daniel went very still. What? He asked. He knows I have a baby. The air on the line shifted. I'll come there, Daniel said immediately. No. You're not safe. Neither are you. That's not the point. His voice was tight now. I won't let him use you. She swallowed. You don't get to decide that. A beat. I know, he said. He sounded like he meant it. We need to find your daughter, she said. Yes, and we need to do it without leading him to her. Another pause. How? He asked. She looked at her reflection in the dark window. The woman staring back at her didn't look like someone who bought estates quietly and kept her life sealed off. She looked like someone who had stepped into something she couldn't unsee. We give him something else to watch, she said. Silence. What do you mean? We make him think the child is somewhere obvious. Daniel understood quickly. You're saying we misdirect him? Yes. With what? She looked at her daughter, at the cameras in the corners of the ceiling, at the gates. At me, she said. There was a long silence. That's too risky, Daniel said. He already knows I exist. That's not the same as putting yourself in front of him. She inhaled slowly. You said you'd live with the truth, she said quietly. I will. Then listen to me. He didn't interrupt. If he wants control, we deny it, she continued. We draw him into the open. We make him think the child is closer than she is. And if he comes to you? Daniel asked. She thought of the unlocked gate, of the missing worker. He already did, she said. The words sat heavy. Daniel exhaled. You're not trained for this, he said. No, she agreed. But I know how men like him think. How? She didn't answer that. She didn't need to. Silence stretched between them again. Finally, Daniel spoke. If anything happens to you, it won't, she said. She didn't know that. But she couldn't let him hear doubt. There was a faint sound in the background on his end. A door closing. I'm coming, he said. No, I'm not staying away while you do this. Her jaw tightened. This isn't about pride, she said. This is about strategy. Another pause. Then, quieter. I'm not letting someone else's father hurt another child, Daniel said. The sentence landed deep. She closed her eyes briefly. Neither am I. She opened them again. Then we do this carefully, she said. Yes. She ended the call and stood very still. Outside, the afternoon light had shifted again. Longer shadows. Thinner air. Marco knocked lightly on the kitchen door. Ma'am? She turned. All gates secured, he said. Extra patrol in place. She nodded. Good. He hesitated. Is this about the man from before? Yes, she said. Marco's jaw tightened. We'll handle it. She believed he meant that. But this wasn't something security cameras could fix. She walked back into the living room, lifted her daughter again, held her close. The baby pressed her cheek against her shoulder. Trusting, unaware. She looked toward the hedge line outside. Somewhere beyond it, a man who liked control believed he could still reach inside her life. She adjusted her hold on her daughter slightly. No speeches formed in her head. No dramatic resolve. Just a quiet, steady understanding. She wasn't doing this to be brave. She was doing it because someone had once opened her gate without asking. And she had decided not to close her eyes. Whatever this cost her, it would not cost another child her safety. Not if she could stand in the way. The first time she saw him, it wasn't dramatic. No mask, no weapon, no raised voice. Just a man standing across the street from the estate 3 days later, hands in his coat pockets, looking at the hedges like they were something he could eventually move. Marco noticed him first. Same vehicle passed twice, he said through the earpiece. Dark sedan. Parked now. She didn't go to the window immediately. She finished buttoning her daughter's sweater. Slowly. Her hands were steady. That surprised her. Keep the gates closed, she said. Yes, ma'am. Only then did she step into the study and look through the narrow gap in the curtains. He didn't look like a threat. That was the problem. Mid-50s. Average build. Hair graying at the temples. Calm posture. He wasn't watching the house nervously. He was observing it, like he was cataloging entry points. Her stomach tightened. Zoom, she said quietly. Marco's voice came back through the small speaker on the desk. Already did. Her phone buzzed a second later with a still image. She looked down. The eyes were what unsettled her. Not angry. Interested. She exhaled slowly. That's him, she said. Positive? Marco asked. Yes. She didn't know how she knew. But she did. He hasn't approached the gate, Marco said. He won't, she replied. Why? Because he wants us to approach him. Silence on the line. What's the plan? Marco asked. She hesitated. Then she said something she hadn't expected to say. 3 days ago, call the police. Marco didn't question it. Yes, ma'am. She stayed at the window. The man didn't move. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then a patrol car turned onto the street. The man saw it. He didn't run. He didn't panic. He simply got back into his car and drove away. Controlled. That detail mattered. He wasn't reckless, he was testing. Her phone rang. Daniel. He's there? He asked. He was. And he left when the police arrived. Daniel went quiet. He's watching, she said. Yes. There was a faint tremor in his voice now, not fear for himself, for his daughter. I spoke to the investigator, you said. He thinks the child might be with a relative of hers, a cousin, out of state. Her pulse shifted. Is that good? It means she's not with him, Daniel said. That felt like air returning to her lungs. And the mother? She asked. She's still at the rental, he said. But she knows he's circling. Silence. Do you want to see her? She asked. Daniel didn't answer right away. Yes, he said finally. But not to fight. She believed that. You won't push for custody right now, she said. It wasn't a question. He understood. If pushing drives her back to him, no, he said quietly. I won't. The words settled between them. Not dramatic, just chosen. She looked out the window again. The street was empty now, but the feeling wasn't. You should file for protective custody, she said. I will, he replied. But carefully. Carefully. That word mattered more than force ever could. She ended the call and walked back into the living room. Her daughter was sitting in the middle of a blanket, pulling at the fringe with full concentration. She crouched down and watched her for a long moment. 3 days ago, she would have called security immediately. She would have labeled Daniel a threat. She would have shut the gate and moved on. 3 days ago, this would have been someone else's problem. Now it wasn't. Marco stepped into the doorway. Police want a statement, he said. She nodded. I'll give it. She handed her daughter to Lila and stepped outside. The air was cold but clear. The officer listened while she explained. She didn't exaggerate. She didn't dramatize. She described what she saw, what she knew, what she suspected. The officer took notes. Has he made direct contact? The officer asked. No. Threatened you? No. Then our hands are limited, he said carefully. I understand. She did. Control didn't always look illegal. Sometimes it just looked patient. When the officer left, she stood in the driveway for a moment longer. The hedges looked the same. The gate looked solid. But she knew better now. Security wasn't about height or metal. It was about attention. She went back inside. Lila was in the kitchen, rocking the baby gently. She has been fussy, Lila said softly. She took her daughter back, held her close. The baby settled almost instantly. That trust again. It felt heavier now. Later that evening, the investigator called one last time. He's backing off, he said, for now. Yes. And the child? Confirmed with a cousin, he said. Safe. Enrolled in preschool under a different last name. Her chest loosened slightly. And the mother? She's agreed to supervised mediation, he said. With Daniel. That detail surprised her. Why? She asked. She said she's tired of running. The sentence stayed with her. Tired of running. She understood that more than she wanted to. After the call ended, she sat alone in the quiet house. Her daughter was asleep upstairs. The gates were locked. The street was still. Nothing dramatic had happened. No confrontation. No shouting. No final showdown. Just choices, small ones, made carefully. She thought about the moment in the greenhouse, the bottle tilted just right, the tiny burp, the way she almost called security. If she had, none of this would have unfolded the way it did. Daniel would still be outside the fence. The mother would still be hiding alone, and a man who liked control would still believe no one was paying attention. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. This hadn't changed her in a loud way. It hadn't turned her into something new. It had just adjusted something quiet inside her, Before, she believed protection meant distance. Walls, guards, ownership. Now she understood something else. Protection also meant looking, not turning away when something didn't belong to you, not because it was noble, not because it made her impressive, but because ignoring it would have made her smaller. Upstairs, her daughter shifted in her sleep. She stood and walked to the nursery one more time. She didn't need to check. She just wanted to. The baby's chest rose and fell steadily. She placed a hand lightly against the crib rail, and for the first time in days, her body felt still. Not because the world was safe, but because she had chosen what kind of person she would be when it wasn't.